Okay, hey, my name's Nautica Williams. I'm here representing Dopest Interview magazine. I'm here with Tunde, right? 5.0 GPA and alumni of Oakland Tech. Can you tell us how many scholarships did you get again?
I think I got accepted into 12 schools total, and just like a lot of outside scholarships. The biggest one would be the Jackie Robinson Foundation. That's one that I'm really proud of, really grateful to have received.
Congratulations. And so kind of just to know how you are doing right now, what kind of majors are you taking, what kind of classes have you been taking, and what kind of career are you aiming for after college?
Okay, so I just finished my third semester at Yale University, and I'm a declared sociology major. So a lot of my classes have overlap between African American studies and political science, and like sociology and classes I take are kind of a bridge between the two. And I mean, the end goal is definitely to come back to Oakland, to be involved in like our city government, because this is the community that raised me. This is a community that I'm invested in, and I just feel like in order for my life to be fulfilled, I have to come back here and make a difference so that we can see more students come out of our public education system and be more successful through that.
And when you got accepted into all these schools and got all these scholarships, how did your peers react to these achievements?
I've always kept a really positive friend group. I think that's part of the reason why I was like able to do a lot of this. So most of them were just really excited for me and happy for me. A lot of them are on the same path. For the ones that weren't, they really looked at it as like a way for them to really elevate themselves and like have like a role model or like a peer that was a friend to really like help them elevate their education and really start taking it serious, because it's never too late to really turn your life around and start taking education more seriously.
And actually, so how does the demographics and the school culture at Yale differ or is similar to the school culture of Oakland Tech, or even Oakland in general?
Yeah, so I think in Oakland a lot of times we take for granted how spoiled we are in terms of diversity, just because we have a taste of everything. I mean, where I live I've always lived in an all-black community. Everybody on my street is of African American or of African descent. So transitioning to Yale, I thought it was going to be worse than it was, just because that is like a predominantly white institution, and I knew that I was no longer going to be like a majority how I'm used to like in my city and in my high school. But thankfully there were a lot of communities such as like the Yale Black Men's Union, which I'm on the board of, or the Black Students Alliance at Yale. A lot of just ethnic groups that really welcomed me, and that's part of the reason why I chose that school, just because of my visit there. They really showed me a good time, really welcoming, and introduced me to like a lot of the people there, so I felt at home when I got there.
And what are some challenges you faced or are currently facing at Yale?
I think one big thing that I didn't expect was just that a lot of times, like in my city, when I see people of color, I automatically assume certain things about their experiences that for a lot of people like at Yale just isn't true. So like, I mean, most people of color that I know in Oakland have been through a lot, I've had to overcome a lot of adversity, and going to Yale, a lot of times it was kind of shocking to see people of color that come from more like upper class backgrounds. So a lot of times the things that I thought I could relate to certain people on, it was kind of weird not being able to relate to them just because we didn't have the shared experience. But that really broadened my horizon and opened my eyes up to the fact that the black community is very diverse in itself, and that so many people have different experiences, and like I really got to benefit from learning from how other people live and how other people were brought up, because not everybody was raised in the community like I was. So it's been a learning experience for sure.
And so when you first started college, did you feel personally and academically ready for college? And this is the next part. And do you think excelling in academics is enough to be ready for college?
So when I first started, I think I wasn't fully sure, because I know that at my school a lot of the students don't really come from public schools. A lot of them come from like private schools, boarding schools, prep schools. So I never really had any self-doubts in myself, but I always just wondered like what level other people were going to be on. but not that I was in competition with anybody. I'm only in competition with myself, but it was just interesting to see how I would fit into that. But I mean, after taking my first classes, I realized I'm just as capable as anybody else. So, I mean, thank you to the Oakland Unified School District, because they're the ones who prepared me for this. I never went to a private school or prep school in my life, so I don't know, that was really reassuring, and it made me feel a lot better about our public school system. And what was the second part of the question? I'm sorry.
Oh, and do you think excelling in academics is enough to be ready for college?
To an extent it is, but there's a lot more that goes into it. I think you really have to be ready to manage your own schedule, just because so many things in college are optional, like going to class. So I think it's a lot about time management and structure in your day. So I really had to make like a weekly schedule that shows like what I'm doing every hour to make sure I'm on top of everything, because I'm involved in a lot of student groups. And I used to be involved in like a varsity sports. I used to play varsity baseball at Yale for a semester too. So that was interesting. But I think when you're in high school and you're involved, whether it be playing sports or being in like writing clubs, like scholarship federation, anything like that, I think that helps you prepare, because you're used to using up a lot of your time. So then when you go to college, you'll know how to like better manage it when you just have so much open free space to do whatever interests you. So.
And to kind of move away from school and Yale, kind of to know your own personal experience, in general, do you ever feel stereotyped? And if you are in that position, how do you deal with that?
I definitely feel stereotyped a lot of times. Not even feel stereotyped, I am stereotyped. There have been plenty of times where I'm driving or my friends are driving around our city and we get pulled over, just based on whatever type of car we're driving, based on what we look like. I mean, luckily for us, we're never really doing anything wrong, so we'll get pulled over, questioned a little bit, and then we'll get let go. But it still shouldn't be that way, because at the end of the day, if I get pulled over, I get let go because I didn't do anything. Like, that just shows that you're being racially profiled. And I guess I try not to let it bother me, because I always believe in like just try and maybe lose the battle to win the war, so I try not to be confrontational. But when I go back home, like after those experiences, I write about them. You know, I speak to different people in the city about them to let them know that this is a reality that often goes overlooked, because a lot of people don't have, I guess, the clout that I have in terms of like being able to reach out to certain people. And then what if somebody, like what if it was somebody who got pulled over for not doing anything, but they happen to have some small substance or something that's not really that significant, but then they would end up being, you know, having a criminal record because of that. Then it makes you wonder, like, they weren't doing anything in the first place. This comes as a result of racial profiling, and that's not, you know, that's not something that's right or good for our community. It's something that needs to be changed, so we'll work on that. And
so kind of, would you say you've always like faced stereotypes like in school or in Yale also? When people like hear about your achievements, it's like, oh, like kind of surprised about it?
Definitely. A lot of times, there's been a lot of times where I have to like show my Yale ID at different areas around Yale, just because I don't usually dress like what people think a Yale student dresses like, or I don't look what a Yale student looks like. Or if I do, people automatically assume I'm on the football team. But I mean, I haven't played football since I've been 10 years old. But still, it's like subtle microaggressions. People always, they won't even ask me if I played a football team. They'll just say, oh, like, you guys aren't supposed to be all right now. Don't you have a game tomorrow? So it's like different things like that that go into like people's subconscious that like make people think that African American males a lot of times can only achieve because of sports, or can only be in these areas because of athletics. So, but like I said, I don't really let it bother me, but I am aware that it happens.
So kind of with your experiences and maybe thinking back when you were in high school or even in middle school, can you share a story where a staff member believed in you and supported you so that you could be successful, and a time where a staff member either didn't believe in you or didn't have the capacity to support you?
I think all throughout high school, my junior and senior years, I had a lot of staff support from my counselor, Ms. Mayer, who was always encouraging me to apply to the top-notch schools, because I mean, I never had any like dream or like goal of going to any Ivy League schools. I kind of just applied because she did, and also our other guidance counselor, Ms. Susan Payne, she really encouraged me to just shoot my applications out to a lot of top schools, because she had a lot of faith in me. Or senior year, my government teacher, Ms. Wolf, who runs the Paideia program at Oakland Tech, she's always had so much faith in all students, but like especially like her students of color, because she's really invested in the community, but she also just knows how capable people are. So she really pushed us to do our best, and I think that's something like the best academic work I've ever done. Like to this day would be my senior year in high school, just because of how much responsibility she gave us, but she did it because she knew that we were like fully capable of doing it. She wanted us to be like our best academic selves. And on the flip side to that, there have definitely been experiences with staff members who have definitely doubted me in the beginning, but I eventually proved them wrong a lot of times. Like I can recall times in middle school, like when I would be in like accelerated classes on like the first couple of days, teachers would question me and ask like, oh, are you sure like you're ready to take algebra in 6th grade, or are you sure you're ready to take this elevated? I mean, like I said, I never really let it bother me, but I knew what they were saying, like by questioning me and questioning my abilities. But by the end of the year, I mean, they knew I was fully capable, and like they enjoyed having me in their class. So it's good and bad also, because whenever somebody doubts me, I definitely just use that and add fuel to the fire, because it's like, okay, now I'm even more motivated to like prove you wrong. So
I know you kind of answered this a little bit, but do you think every school staff believes in the potential of all students, regardless of their race, gender, or socioeconomic backgrounds?
I mean, of course people would like to hear me say yes, but if I said that, I'd be lying. I don't think that's the truth. It's hard to be like, you know, so skeptical, so cynical about it, but it's just not the case. A lot of times I feel like people view me as like an exception or as an anomaly, but that just goes to show that they think that I'm like an outlier within my community. So like, what about everyone else who looks like me? You know what I mean? So 'cause it's been plenty of times where I can share experiences, if you want, like in high school and things, of just me being in certain crowds and like teachers, you know, trying to say things like, oh, like I'm surprised you hang out with these people or anything, but like it's not about that. You hang out who you're comfortable with, and like your academic ability shouldn't be determined by how much money you have, or you know what color your skin is or anything like that. Like everybody's fully capable. You just need people to let you know that you are capable, and like to actually push you to do your best work. A lot of times people just get swept under the rug, and they aren't really cared for. So, but I mean that's all comes from a need to restructure our education system.
And so, like, if you could like change anything about OESD or our education system, or anything you hope to see change in schools, what would it be?
One, it would be to pay teachers higher salaries and make sure that they're more qualified, and like have a more extensive like screening in terms of the hiring process. Just because, I mean, I think teaching is the most important occupation that there is, just because they're the ones who are actually like preparing the next generation to be like our future leaders. But for the amount of money that they make, it's like it just doesn't match up. You know what I mean? So definitely just like having more money to invest in the public school system, and then that in turn will snowball effect into making sure that like more people that have higher qualifications, or more people that are more invested in students, will be higher. Just because a lot of times it's like schools sometimes struggle to find teachers, just because a lot of people want to make money in life, and then like a starting teaching salary is not as high as it should be. So.
And last one is, do you have any words of advice or words of wisdom that you would like to say to the youth of Oakland, or to, you know, the youth in general?
I mean, not to be cliche, but honestly, you're in a city, by default, by being raised in this city, you have a heightened sense of awareness, a heightened exposure to diversity, and this is like a tough city to make it out of, regardless of where you're from, like what part of it you're from. So that gives you like a certain mental fortitude that a lot of people don't have, that we take for granted. And a lot of people in the city, maybe you're not doing the best that you could like academically in terms of like our education system, school terms, but know that a lot of times you're a lot wiser than a lot of people from other areas in the world. So just use that, you know, to elevate yourself in life, even if school isn't your thing right now. And also just always know that like education will never fail you. You can play sports, you can get injured, and that can be the end of it. The fast money drug game, robbing people, that's going to catch up with you very quickly if that's what you're doing. But like if you're doing what's right, in terms of just like trying to get your education, I know that can be hard with all the other factors that go on with like being raised in the city. I know that's a lot of times challenged, and like people often overlook how challenging it is for people to just go to school on a daily basis. But just know that if you really invest yourself in that, it'll pay off in the long run, and just stick with that for as long as you can.
Thank you for your answers.
Thank you.